Second hour here, we're going to do, and for some of you, the fourth hour, we're going to do an intro to the topic and the lessons first, and then a break, and then a very, very short example debate with very, very short speeches, but you'll be able to get the flow of the round and the idea from there. And then the last 10 minutes, we'll debrief both this session and the two sessions overall, and ask you to fill out a short exit ticket. All right, let's just make sure your bracket rooms are closed. Everyone's back here, looks like. Yes, okay. All right. Awesome. Yes, and now I'm gonna share actually the PowerPoint for this session in the chat as well. So here's the PowerPoint that we're using right now in case you have trouble seeing it when the screen is shared. All right, so diving into the topic for this year. So our national resolution, the thing that everyone who's doing policy debate across the country is debating, is about the United States federal government substantially increasing its security cooperation with NATO in one or more of the following areas: artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and cybersecurity, or cybersecurity. We are going to be digging into cybersecurity and working with NATO around cybersecurity for the first case. The big picture issue of artificial intelligence or biotechnology will be addressed potentially later in the year in our second case, but our first case will focus primarily on cybersecurity. So again, the way that policy debate kind of works is that debaters across the country or debate leagues will provide evidence that creates cases within this larger debate topic. So we're not going to be looking at the whole debate topic, just one case within it for the start of the year, and then we'll switch halfway through. What you'll get out of this last hour is an initial understanding of BDL coaching lessons, where to find them, what's in them, etc. An initial understanding of the main arguments in the novice version of the cybersecurity case. Yeah. So we talked about the resolution already. The BDL's first case, cybersecurity. So before we even get into that, there's what does a debate look like? You're going to get to see one in a little bit, but BDL YouTube has a bunch of examples of what debate rounds look like, and I didn't want to forget to include that. So I highly encourage, especially the high school JV city championship round and the middle school varsity city championship round from last year or the year before are both excellent debates and very watchable. Like the level of the debate is something that can be absorbed fairly easily by anyone on your debate team. So if you're looking for full round examples, what does this thing actually look like? You're going to get to see one in a second, but there are more with actual students on our YouTube, and on October 7th at the Debate Academy, we'll probably be doing a mock debate on there as well to give people an example of what this looks like. Our evidence packets look a little bit different division by division, and so there are different levels of debate packets. The middle school novice packet has source material that's totally rewritten with no debate jargon, and even complex language from articles that are cited is simplified. So we try to make it as readable as possible for our middle school novice. Our middle school JV / high school novice / debate en español novice are all using the same packet. The Spanish version is a direct translation of the English version, in case you're coaching students in both languages. And all we've done from the original articles here is delete lines of evidence from the source material that don't directly go towards proving the claim. So it really shortens the piece of evidence to make it more readable, but the complex vocabulary of the article is still in there. And we also introduced debate jargon while still having the explanation of the card included. And finally, our middle school varsity, high school JV, and debate en español varsity packets have full source material exactly how you would see it in an article, just only underlined portions are suggested for reading, and it has debate jargon. And the high school varsity has no packet whatsoever. And Debate en Español varsity transitions into this for the second half of the year as well. All right, let's see if we can address any questions. Thank you. Yes, thank you, Marisa. Okay.
Oh, could I ask a quick question about the evidence packets?
Yes, please.
So for debaters at the varsity level, is it typical that they will still draw from evidence from the previous packets, or would you say that students usually like gather all their own evidence, or is it a combination of both?
Yeah, it's a good question. I would say that most students at the varsity level who are transitioning into high school varsity during the course of the year will probably start by running the high school JV case when they go into varsity, just because they're comfortable with that. I will also add that our cases, especially on the affirmative side, are written to be balanced between affirmative and negative. They're not written to be very winnable for the affirmative team. So your debaters may change the case or write a totally new one that they feel is a lot more winnable and something that's a lot more what they believe in personally. Our cases are meant to be balanced and hopefully produce generally balanced debates between affirmative and negative, which means there are gaps on both sides. There are also other resources available. A lot of varsity level debaters from around the country will post their evidence, as well as major debate camps will post evidence they use in different types of cases. So other debate leagues, other debate camps, or even just individual schools and students will post their own evidence. So a lot of varsity debaters will also kind of just peruse resources to find out where or what's being argued about by other people. All right. So let's get into the arguments. The Novice Cybersecurity Affirmative, which I will be arguing in a little bit, argues that more and more people are getting their news from social media. In 2016, fake news, some of it from Russian hackers, helped Donald Trump win the presidential election. And since Trump's election in 2016, there has been a rise in violence as people believe fake news and are encouraged to take action to stop the horrible things that fake news says is happening. Fake news and Russian hacking in general causes other problems as well, making people not trust that US elections are fair, believing that Ukraine is committing human rights violations against its own people, and making people hesitant to take vaccines and protect their own health. The affirmative argues that the best way for the US to address these cybersecurity issues and the threats specifically of Russia hacking is to work with NATO to set up a platform to share cybersecurity intelligence, increase NATO's investment in technology with a lot of money, and set up joint cybersecurity teams between NATO allies. The affirmative argues that working with NATO to solve these problems will work because sharing ideas and money between NATO resources will greatly increase cybersecurity and thus stop Russia from spreading fake news and creating all the problems listed above. That's the general affirmative argument. You're going to hear me make that in the debate in a little bit. Douglas, do you want to read the negative summary?
Yeah, sure. There are some major problems with the way that the affirmative describes the situation and attempts to solve the plan. The US is already working with NATO on cybersecurity, and yet attacks are still happening. There are also other reasons why Donald Trump won the 2016 presidential election and other causes of fake news that are not coming from Russia. Some of the other reasons why fake news are causing problems include people in companies in the US creating their own fake news, social media companies failing to policy fake news, and people listening news not checking the source of the news to see if it's real. Finally, the negative argues that the affirmative plan will not solve the harms that the affirmative identifies because the plan itself will not succeed. Some reasons the plan would fail include that it doesn't work at all with journalists to improve news, NATO won't feel strongly enough about Russia's cyber attacks to take action, and NATO is not designed to help prevent attacks like the ones that got Donald Trump elected.
All right, so that's going to be the general case. Now, we tested this out in the spring and with some of the debaters at summer camp, and there are certainly holes in the arguments on both sides. You're going to notice that the goal of debate and the evidence that we put out there is not to create an airtight case on the affirmative or the negative. Really, it's to create just a case that is debatable, right? Would working with NATO against Russia help solve some of our fake news problem in the United States? Or would it not have much of an impact at all? And that's generally going to be what the first debate will be about. Now, you might want to spend time with your debaters learning about some of the things that will help them understand this debate. So what resources do you have available? Take a look. You have, first off, the case map. The case map shows exactly what pieces of evidence are included in the Novice packet, also the JV packet, also the Russia DA, also the counterplan. But the case map is great because it shows how pieces of evidence that are categorized in certain ways respond to one another within the packet. So all of these pieces of evidence in columns A and C are affirmative pieces of evidence, and everything in column B and column D are negative pieces of evidence. And you can read going across how arguments are designed to respond. You can also see that there's some major gaps that, responses just don't really exist in the evidence, and debaters will have to fill in those holes themselves. All right. Beyond the case map, you have some more resources. Let's take a look. So on the BDL website, there are things like lessons, videos, budget and practice attendance trackers, which has nothing to do with learning the case, but it's super helpful for you as a coach. And attendance trackers, same idea. The weekly coach email will have reminders about upcoming events, but also suggested weekly lessons that go through like where you generally want to be with your students at this point. So let's jump over and check out our website for a second. Here we go, bostondebate.org, celebrating 15 years of impact and service. Where you're going to want to go in here is, generally speaking, if you want to learn more about our programming, you can go here, but this is really more the external facing part, learning about our work. What you want to do is go over to My BDL. My BDL is going to be for you coaches and for your debaters to get direct resources to learn about debate and also learn about our upcoming events. So our debater resource page is here. It's got things like intro to debate videos, research guide, links to our evidence, a debate glossary, a whole section for Debates en Español resources, flow sheets for debates, outside cases that have been posted by other students, which responds a little bit to what Allison had asked about. But the main place you're going to spend a lot of your time as a coach is in the coaching resources section. So again, this is bostondebate.org, My BDL, coaching resources. And we have tons of good things in here. We have our season calendar, we have debate lessons, we have evidence, we have recruitment icebreakers for team management, we have topic videos in English and Spanish, we have student registration forms, we have a link to our broader YouTube, our tournament platform, tabroom.com, which we use to manage tournaments when we're in person. Our coaching trackers as well, our newsletter archive in case you can't find an old email that you got from us, and even bonus lessons that teach more advanced topics from the National Association for Debate Leagues. All right, so those are the coaching resources that are available. I'm going to pause there for a second. Questions in the chat. Is the case map a new thing? It blew my mind. So it was mostly an internal thing in the past. So we're making it more external this year and encouraging people to share it. But we're just advertising it a little bit better. It did exist in the past, but wasn't really heavily used. All right. Any questions about what resources you have available to you? We're about to dig into the lessons, but are there questions about what resources coaches have available or where you could find things like, does this exist? Does that exist? Something like that. Any questions on resources? Okay, so I will share the number one tip for finding resources, especially since there are a lot, is always going to be ask your program manager. We're going to have the best understanding of where all of our resources are and what the things are that'll be most helpful for you. So if you want to just peruse the lessons and see if you can find something interesting, go for it. But if you're like, I absolutely want to teach my debaters about counterplan strategy and I want the best lesson that BDL has on counterplans, ask your program manager because they'll be able to send you the link directly very quickly, whereas it might take you a little bit longer to find it. I will say our resources have gotten much more navigable and that has improved greatly. And you should be able to find everything in the coaching resources section of our website. But if you want a quick way to find things that are more direct and specific to your current needs, ask your program manager. That's what we're here for. All right, back to our resources. Here we go. All right, novice lessons. So the first 3 lessons this year are going to be what you might want to do with your students starting in September. In September, lessons 1 and 2. Lesson 1 is about debate and debates on topics of your debater's choice. So this is going to be fun debates on, I don't know, Xbox versus PlayStation, or, you know, Takis versus Cheetos, or whatever it is, right? DC versus Marvel. Anything that your debaters want to debate about, we have templates for how you can have those debates in quick, easy ways and make them fun in practice. Our second lesson is going to focus a little bit more on what argumentation is, so what makes a strong argument. So we're trying to go from just the things people already know about to then use those ideas to make strong arguments. Lessons 1 and 2, though, are not going to get into the BDL case at all. Every lesson after that, starting with lesson 3, will have some content from the current year's debate evidence or topic. So your first intro to the topic is going to be lesson 3. And within lesson 3, you're going to find things like stats on how many people and how many people use the internet and how people use the internet. You're going to find videos on things like what is fake news, what is cyber warfare, what was Russia's impact on the 2016 election. These things are also in the BDL YouTube topic education playlist, but we, in each lesson, try and put a certain suggested video or a couple of videos for students to learn in a general order that we think makes sense to learn. And these are 3 videos that we think are really particularly good. I'm going to start with this one because I think it is a good use of the next 2 minutes. Here we go.
The Prime Minister of Canada has a pet alien? I read it online, and I even saw a photo. A photo! It must be true, right?
Wrong. Turns out, sometimes the news you find on the internet isn't real. It's what we call fake news. Sometimes the story starts as a joke, and then somebody takes it seriously, and it spreads.
But why would anybody waste their time inventing a fake news story?
It's clickbait. The more people click on an interesting sounding story, the more people will see the ads on that webpage. And that equals money. And sometimes people just want to spread their own ideas or beliefs without backing them up with any facts at all.
Vote for me and I'll turn all rivers into ice cream by 2020. That's a promise.
You mean that's not true? I read that one online like a week ago. Aw, I love ice cream.
So, how can you tell if a news story is fake?
I know this one. Watch out for no eyewitnesses or quotes and phony experts in a story. Pictures that might have been photoshopped. Headlines written in capital letters with lots of exclamation points.
Yep, that's right. Those things are all good indicators that the story you're reading is fake. Here's a few more. Lots of pop-ups and banner ads. Lots of broken links. No author's name and incomplete information in the About Us section of the website. Also, check the date the story was written. Is this just an old story that's been recycled? Are any other major websites reporting the same thing? If not, the story probably isn't real. And check the website address. Fake URLs usually try to copy real websites, often by adding unnecessary words and domains. A basic rule of thumb.
If you aren't sure that a story is real, don't share it. Hey, look, the banana company is giving away free bee phones. All I have to do is share this article with 500 of my friends, and I can get a free... Oh, right.
Fake news.
All right. So that is just one of a number of different videos that are going to be in the lessons that'll be shared throughout the season. Again, we're working to have as many of those lessons updated at the start of the season around now as possible. It's a work in progress, but the ones that we share out in the coach community email each week will absolutely be updated and be available in English and Spanish. So they'll be released at what we think is a pretty good time in the season to start to dig into these things, and we'll make suggestions about, how to learn about these things. We know this topic about Russia meddling in US elections is some that some people will be very interested in. It's some that people won't care about at all, right? But we hope that the ideas, the bigger picture ideas of cybersecurity or, the impacts of war or things like social media and fake news, could engage students in different ways. So part of your job as a coach is to make it engaging and give students opportunities to talk about, things like cybersecurity and fake news. And you can use that as sort of a hook to get into the debate topic rather than just trying to give them the evidence packet right away and say, read this and argue about it. Yeah. Any questions on BDL resources and lessons? Okay, great. After this comes more lessons. I'm going to go through these slides super quick. We have lessons. The first set of novice lessons that kind of take you through the first tournament or so include things like a full debate without evidence, right? Using just what debaters have learned from the videos they watched. Ways to introduce the evidence packet to debaters, how to review and navigate the evidence packet, what the things are that are in there that are helpful, like the glossary, the summaries, etc. Giving a page-by-page overview of the packet and how to get debaters to really dig in and better understand the packet. BDL lessons also introduce both sides and help build topic knowledge. There are also lessons that specifically help debaters look at the strength of evidence, right? There's a lesson 6 talks about finding the strongest piece of evidence on either side and how having one really strong piece of evidence can help you win a debate. And then finally, there are things that even go beyond the packet and talking about how cross-examination, where debaters ask each other questions after their speeches or rebuttals, preparing for those can help you win the debate. So those are all going to be found in the first set of novice lessons. They're also going to be JV and varsity lessons. Again, these things are being updated at the moment and will be rolled out as they're ready. But if you're looking for anything specific, we usually have a lot of it available and are glad to help you find it. All right. So we're going to do a practice poll debate, and we'll do a very short version with Douglas and I. But before we do that, we're going to take a short break. It's 5:28 now, and we will start our debate at 5:30.